its mandate. Now, if time permits, and I think it permits, if you stick to the time allotted to you, we will hear from Vincent Forrest from the Frontline Defenders Organization, and also from Mr. Hähnel from the Freedom House, the Brussels office here. Mr. Forrest, please, for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to comment on Margaret's views. First of all, let me thank Margaret for 6 years of a mandate, for determined work, particularly for pointing out the shrinking space faced by human rights defenders, and also for transmitting individual cases to governments, particularly Frontline Defenders cases as well. And Frontline Defenders is an Irish-based organisation, so I remember you paid a visit to Ireland, and I think, as far as I remember, it was the first ever visit to any EU member state. So it was a good opportunity to raise that point and to push EU member states to deal with the protection of human rights defenders, both domestically and internationally. It was mentioned several times that the EU guidelines on human rights defenders are a key reference document for the EU, for the EU delegations, but also for the member states and their field embassies. And we all know that the key challenge remains implementation. Of course, we can revise the text of the guidelines, but revising a text in itself has never been conducive to real change on the ground. So in terms of implementation, we keep insisting on the need to be result-oriented rather than activity-driven. And honestly, the feedback we receive from the EU and the Member States in terms of on individual cases is quite okay. But the issue is more about the effectiveness of the EU actions, and also in terms of feedback to get more substance on the actions undertaken. Let me give you 2 examples, one positive and one negative. The first is the case mentioned by Barbara beforehand, the case of our friend Ruki Fernanda in Sri Lanka. He was arrested with a colleague on Sunday, and he was released this morning 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. local time. And between his arrest and his release, I've been in touch with the EU delegation, with Barbara's office, and I want to thank her and the office for that, with Lambridinis, with the UK embassy, etc. It was a short campaign, but an urgent campaign for his release, and it was successful. And they've made statements, they've made contacts, they've contacted the authorities, and I firmly believe that his release is clearly linked to that pressure from within Sri Lanka and from abroad. So that's positive, a very positive example, and it's not always the case. The second example is a negative example about the visibility given to human rights defenders by EU delegations. Last year we wanted to we asked a few delegations to host receptions we could of course organize, for the finalists of the Frontline Defenders Award for human rights defenders at risk. And in 2 instances, the responses were negative from the delegations, apparently due to the reluctancy by the heads of delegation to host such receptions. So it was not really positive, despite the fact that the EU guidelines read clearly that the EU mission are invited to provide visibility to human rights defenders, including through invitations for such purposes as presenting prizes they have obtained. Now, a final remark. We are not naive. Of course, we know that there are several apparently conflicting interests at stake, including trade, business, security interests. But we also believe that defenders should be protected for being social agents of social change, and there is no real incompatibility between pursuing economic interests and human rights. So basically, protecting human rights defenders is in everyone's interest. Let me finish by quoting, because we have a UN Special Rapporteur in the House, quoting the former Secretary General Kofi Annan, who said about this question of interest, we will not enjoy security without development, we will not enjoy development without security, and we will not enjoy either without respect for human rights, and I would add, without respect for human rights defenders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest.